Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. 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 Please join me in chanting Vandanati Sarana, which follows the Buddhist practice of taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, or the teachings, and the Sangha, or a community. Please join me in reading the Golden Chain too. I am a link in the Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in the Buddha's golden chain of love become bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Namanda. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Please join me in chanting Junidai. The Gatha or hymn Junidai was written by Nagarjuna, the first of the 7 masters of Jodo Shinshu. It expresses eloquently the depth of Nagarjuna's gratitude to Amida Buddha. 부시 주인의 건지기 신견여 센노 샤마타견여 솔부 요모 그쇼냐 그쇼렌게 호가 졸라이미라손 난산난 조뇨만가 이호윤요센이지가 쇼뇨센 그그시라 호가 졸라이미라손 간논 조다이 간치질 슈주메 솔홀솔곤 노브그게 돌마켈만 호가 졸라이미라손 무비무크 콜쇼조 슈토그 켈헷뇨고그 조사야 그토그 지사이 호가 졸라이미라손 지포묘몬보사슈 무료쇼마졸산담 이쇼슈졸간이기지우 호가 졸라이미라손 곤타이홀 켄시쇼케 렌곤쇼졸멜다이타 오히사존요센노 호가 졸라이미다손 디포쇼라이 쇼부시 갱겐진소시안락 센고손겐조그요 고가 졸라이미다손 쇼무조무가토 야근요 수이간된 Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, 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 it's Namanda. Thank you for coming to service this morning. I'd like to start our next portion, which will be my Dharma talk, by sharing the words of our founder, Shinran. Give me just a moment, and I'll get that ready to go so you can read with me. Okay, for the title of my talk today is Keeping Hope, Imaginary of the Pure Land as Revolutionary Power of Creativity and Social Liberation. Please join me in Gassho as I read the words of Shinran. Dharmakara Bodhisattva, during the causal state, being in the presence of Buddha Lokeshvara Raja, and having examined the causes of Buddha's pure lands, and the good and evil of those Buddha lands, and of the heavenly and human realms, established the highest, most excellent vow, and brought forth the rare, great universal vow. After contemplating for 5 kalpas, chose the best of them. Again, vowed that the name Amida be heard in the 10 quarters. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. This passage comes from the beginning of the Shoshinge, where the founder of our lineage, Shinran, describes the origin narrative of Buddha Amida. The story comes from the larger sutra on the Buddha of Immeasurable Life, where a royal encounters Lokeshvara Raja Buddha and decides to forsake the regal life and to pursue Buddhahood, becoming a monk and taking up the name Dharmakara. According to the larger sutra, Dharmakara practiced austerities and evaluated the attributes of the Buddha's lands over many lifetimes, and evaluated and considered these lands along with the heavenly realms and the human realms over the course of these 5 kalpas in order to create a perfect realm where all beings could be born in order to attain nirvana. Now, I looked it up, and a kalpa is 4.3 billion years. So that means that Dharmakara was practicing for 21.5 billion years. 21.5 billion years of careful evaluation and practice. By contrast, the Earth is approximately 4.6 billion years old. So that's 21.5 billion years of careful evaluation and practice. The age of the universe is also estimated to be 13.6 billion years. So if we think in these terms, the practice of Bodhisattva Dharmakara, or similarly, the virtues and insight and understanding of Amida Buddha, extends beyond the origins of the very universe. Something that I've noticed for myself, and in a lot of other people in the world today, is that we tend to hold logic, science, and reason as paramount points of guidance in our lives. That makes sense especially for me because I'm classically trained as a scientist. I studied geology both in undergrad and in graduate school. However, right now I'm not a professional geologist, and while an analytical mind can be very helpful, I've also learned that it's just as important to live in my abstract, conceptual, and artistic mind, especially when it comes to thinking about Buddhism, because there's an interesting balance of logic, of metaphysics, and magic in Buddhism. Maybe many of us have been convinced in so many ways to think about the world in this very logical and dispassionate, objective way. and that's part of the dominant culture in which we're living. However, today, when we think about the myth of Bodhisattva Dharmakara, I'd like to encourage us all to examine that story with a healthy balance of logical analysis, along with a sense of imaginative wonder, because they're both important. In talking about this story, I will use the name Dharmakara and Amida interchangeably, and the reason I want to discuss them today is because this story is foundational to Jodashinshu Buddhism, and contained within it is a powerful narrative in how we might understand and affect movement toward mutual care and equality in the world. I've noticed in my time at the Pacific School of Religion, which is at its heart a Christian school working to be more ecumenical and inclusive of many traditions, that my classmates have unique and personal approaches to their mostly Christian faith. Some folks know a little bit about Buddhism, and some know a little more than that, but I keep bumping into the idea that I can simplify quote-unquote Buddhism in a few sentences. The truth is that it's much more complex, though. I'm having conversations with my friends in school, and also with my friends in the Sangha, and during this time I've come to realize that my own experience and conceptions of Buddhist teachings are very mystical. And I find this to be helpful for me when I approach these assumptions about Buddhism as simply logical and a philosophical way of living our lives. For myself, I tend to lean into the mystical stories of Buddhism, like the one of Bodhisattva Dharmakara, who over the course of billions of years, over many lifetimes, cultivated connection to nirvana so profound that they were able to distill nirvana into a perfect land of awakening, the pure land of Sukhavati. That Sanskrit word, Sukhavati, means blissful abode. And in the story of Amida Buddha, this realm was created to be a place of perfection, where beings could be born so that they could perfect themselves and cultivate the same virtues that Dharmakara did, and quickly attain liberation. This is the mystical story that holds a lot of hope and wisdom for the trying times in which we're living. With blatant fascism and state violence on the rise in the United States, where already marginalized people continue to see our rights, protections, and our safety eroded. It's important for us to look beyond the historicity of Bodhisattva Dharmakara and Amida Buddha. A question that I often get asked in temples is, was Dharmakara a real person who became this Buddha, Amida? This question holds a lot of assumptions about how the world works and challenges many Buddhist concepts of transmigration and of time. People often want a historical person who knew something and wanted to share. That's Shakyamuni Buddha. The myth of Dharmakara is different because that story is outside our realm of comprehending time. And we have to learn to let go of those linear notions of time and the essentialism of our human experience. This life is very important. It's our chance to become kinder and more loving people. And it's also but one moment on a grand scale of a cyclical story of the cosmos. These ideas might be opposed at first glance, but they're actually tied together. Just like Bodhisattva Dharmakara cultivated the roots of good and took billions of years and many lifetimes to create the land of bliss, our own lives are a slow and daily practice of growth and becoming our authentic selves. There's a unity in each waking moment, in every decision that we make, and the much larger narrative of our lives. Each day, when we wake up, there are many things we can choose to be and what to do. Similarly, in each moment of our lives throughout the day, there are branching realities that we create through our decisions, and also the path which has been laid out before us due to our karmic circumstances of our lives. Each of these moments is one for us to learn and to grow. So held within each passing second is the hope for liberation and awakening to the reality of our world. This is all to say that each moment in our lives is one of practice, of cultivation, and creating the future by sowing the seeds of karmic activity in these choices and what we do and what we decide not to do. In a sense, the myth of Bodhisattva Dharmakara and Amida Buddha is one that we might look to for guidance in how we might choose to live in this world of pain and suffering. In Jodo Shinchu, we express our gratitude and reliance on the story of Amida by saying Namo Amida Butsu. And I'm suggesting that a mystical approach to this practice of reciting the name would be to take on the story of Bodhisattva Dharmakara every day for our own story as we live. When we say Namo Amida Butsu, we might ask ourselves many questions. Do I understand what true love is, or what compassion is? Namo Amida Butsu. Do my thoughts and actions align with true love, with compassion, with the creative activity of liberation for all beings? Not just the liberation for other people, but also for myself. Namo Amida Butsu. What do freedom and liberation mean, especially in our world filled with discrimination, violence, and domination? Namo Amida Butsu. In the billions of years, the timelessness of the working of enlightenment, what does this current moment of my life mean? This tiny moment may seem terribly important or altogether insignificant, and it also may be both at once. Namo Amida Butsu. What does the Pure Land look like? What does it feel like? How would it feel to be born into the Pure Land? Namo Amida Butsu. Is it possible to find the Pure Land here in this world of suffering? Does it feel far away, like a wistful dream? Namo Amida Butsu. What must be done to cultivate the attributes of the Pure Land, of equality, of bliss, the Pure Land of non-discrimination and ultimate freedom, this powerful imaginary? What does it take to cultivate in this life and this world in which we're living? Namo Amida Butsu. During the month of June, we celebrate LGBTQIA Pride. Pride didn't start with a joyful rainbow celebration of queer and trans identities. It was a riotous and violent rebellion against brutal policing, led by transgender women of color. Over the years, oligarchical capitalist America has turned Pride into a corporate-sponsored spectacle, with troves of rainbow-slathered merchandise. And while it's exciting for us to be able to celebrate our authentic selves, the past couple of years have been among the most contentiously backward-moving ones for queer and trans rights in the United States. Each year I learned that this year is the deadliest on record for transgender people, especially trans women of color. And this year's no exception to that trend. Queer and trans children, and even their caretakers, are under systematic attack by conservative legislatures across the country. I have to say that this year in June, as a queer, transgender, non-binary person, I don't feel much pride. I just feel scared, angry, and exhausted. I've been assured that by my elders that things have gotten quote-unquote better for me and my community. But honestly, better isn't enough. I'm a survivor of emotional abuse, of assault and physical violence because of my gender and my sexuality, and I'll carry that trauma with me for the rest of my life. I'm truly tired of living in a world where that sort of traumatic violence is considered normal. It's considered better. Perhaps we might feel like these problems don't exist in our temples. We're Buddhists, so we accept everyone equally, just like the Buddha. But I hate to say that that isn't true. In April, at the San Francisco Japantown Cherry Blossom Festival, my bestie Tara and I hung a rainbow and trans flags at the booth representing Berkeley Buddhist Temple and a few other Bay Area temples. Lots of queer and trans people came over and expressed their gratitude that we support the community. At the Cherry Blossom Festival, someone from a Bay Area temple approached me to ask how to encourage the Sangha to be more inclusive of LGBTQ folks. After we chatted a bit, she told me that her temple really felt like it was constantly an uphill fight to get that community to understand the issues that queer people face. She also told me that she had commiserated with a queer friend from another temple in the Bay Area about how difficult it was to feel included and to feel safe at their temples. These are two different temples in the Bay Area, a part of the US that's generally considered to be a lot more safe and accepting for LGBTQIA people. But hearing this, I felt so sad, and honestly I just wanted to take those pride flags down and leave the festival. I often wonder what causes people to be so mean and hateful in our sanghas, and how many queer and trans people are in our temple. How many of them feel safe and included in the sangha? It's a question that comes up in my mind every day, many times per day. If that's how the temples in the Bay Area are, with my two new friends I met at the Cherry Blossom Festival, how much worse could it be in other temples and communities where it's even more difficult for us to be our authentic selves? For myself, I want to embrace the story of Amida Buddha to work towards a world of equality. And I wonder if, in the 5 kalpas of cultivation, Dharmakara ever felt tired, scared, and angry like I do now. Like my black friends and family might feel when they lose another loved one or hear about yet another extrajudicial execution. Like my Asian American and Pacific Islander friends and family feel when they experience or hear about another act of anti-Asian hate. Sometimes I wonder how Amida Buddha feels. Though it's hard and some days feel hopeless, I continue to return to the notion of practice, that building an equal society requires daily practice of equity. Equity means recognizing the problems that exist in the world, that the world we live in isn't equal. People aren't treated equally, and so we have to put in the work to change that. The violence, the hatred, the injustice, grounded in discrimination, all of these problems are here. It takes conscious decisions every single day to imagine that world of equality, and it takes daily practice to root out that discrimination within myself and to encourage all of us to eliminate that evil in our own hearts. Dharmakara's primal vow in the larger sutra states, if, when I attain Buddhahood, the sentient beings of the 10 quarters, who, with sincere mind and entrusting heart, aspire to be born in my land and say my name even 10 times, should not be born in my pure land, may I not attain in perfect enlightenment. I want to be born in that land of equality, where we all feel safe, valued, and respected. To love and feel love, and not worry about race, gender, sexuality, ability, and so many other attributes that are judged as barriers to that love. Just as Bodhisattva Dharmakara spent 5 kalpas evaluating the good and evil in the world, and then rooting that evil out, so too must we take up this daily task. It's tempting to stop and think, well, things are better now than they were, but that's not good enough, and we cannot give in to complacency. I see Amida Buddha as my own personal aspiration. I want to create a world of non-discrimination and equality, here and now, and I hope that we can all take up this daily practice and labor together in love to build this world. Please join me in Gasho as we read the words of Shinran once more and recite the sacred name of Buddha. Dharmakara Bodhisattva during the causal state, being in the presence of the Buddha Lokeshvara Raja, and having examined the causes of the Buddha's pure lands, and the good and evil of those lands, and of the heavenly and human realms, established the highest, most excellent vow, and brought forth the rare, great, universal vow. After contemplating for 5 kalpas, chose the best of them, again vowed that the name, Amida, would be heard in the 10 quarters. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 And with that, I will conclude our service for today. Thank you all for joining me. And if you're watching this later online, the recording, I appreciate you watching our service. And I'll stop the recording now. And if you want, we can chat a little bit.